So in the first video, we ended up drawing in SketchUp these T-candle centerpieces. So today we're going to build those. If you haven't watched the first video, it should be appearing on screen. If not, it will be listed on the channel. The first thing I'm going to do is end up selecting the pieces that I'd like to use. I will be referencing the SketchUp model. The first thing I'm going to do is cut everything down to size. Once that's complete, we're going to end up measuring things out, making sure that our blocks are actually square. Once we've determined that the pieces that we've cut will actually work, I'm going to sand them down, trying to get a cleaner edge so that when we glue them together, the glue will have a nice surface to bond to. At this point, I'm not really concerned with everything being perfect. Once we have the pieces with a good, satisfactory edge that will bond well together with the glue, we're going to take some time and spread some glue on the pieces, making sure our joints fit nicely together. I always forget to clean the tip of the glue after I use it. It really makes it hard to get open. Well, now that that's done, let's spread some glue. I typically make some lines on each of my edges because I'm about to stick my finger in it. Some people use a spreader to spread their glue. I prefer just use my finger and peel the glue off. It doesn't seem to bother me. Next, we're going to end up putting the pieces together. Try to get as much glue squeezed out as we can. That way we know we have a nice tight bond. If you don't have a good clamp to clamp your pieces together, feel free to stack some weights on it, put something heavy on it, scrape up any of your loose glue. Some people prefer to wipe it off. I do that ahead of time, try to get as much off. Others will scrape it off after the fact or try to sand it off. I find that ends up gumming up my sanding discs or my belts. Sand it or remove the wood, not the glue. After you let that sit up for a while, go ahead and break off the clamp and go ahead and sand off anything excess, scrape it off, do whatever you have to remove that excess. So now we're just taking off and finishing the top edges. Gonna end up sanding the bottom of it, trying to get some of that glue and finishing the bottom up so it sits nicely on the table. So in order to get the Matchbox slots into the bottoms here, all I'm going to do is mark a good stopping point partially into it, then I'm going to route it. I'll go as deep as my router can, and when we're done, we're going to end up finishing out with like an oscillating tool. And since I don't own a set of chisels, we're going to end up using a screwdriver because why not? And just look at all that sawdust shooting out of there. Hitting a knot makes that thing smoke. So I'm going to use the oscillating tool to break apart the small piece that I couldn't reach using my router. Once that's broken apart a little bit, then you'll see me bring in the screwdriver. And of course my daughter's out here giving me the most helping hand by not paying attention and staring at every squirrel, bug, and possibly leaf that blows by. Once we have the slots to our liking and the matchboxes fit in nicely, we want them to be slightly snug, but not snug enough that we can't get the matchboxes out. We're going to end up marking our center of the tops of the blocks so that we know where to start with our Forstner bit. Now I'm using a 1.5 inch Forstner bit to create the hole. It does a good job, cleans a really nice round hole without much chip out. Now it helps to have a dust collection or something, but well, I don't quite have that in my setup yet, so I'm going to use the old tried and true method where I just blow it off the top so that I can still see what I'm doing. once you're finished with this step, you should have some holes that look like this. So with the candles that I bought, the holes are a little snug, so we're going to use a spade bit here and just round the holes out a little bit. We want that candle to slip in there, hold in steady, but we also want to be able to remove it. And there we go, just about there. Take a little bit more out around the edges. And snug like a bug in a rug. We already know, but let's just check to see if these matchboxes fit again. Now I have a few stains left over for some past projects. I'm going to go ahead and select something there for this project. I'm thinking of using a blue stain. It'll still show the wood grain really nicely, but it's kind of transparent navy blue. You'll see that here in a minute. Now before we end up going to apply our stain, we're going to be sanding things down, trying to get any excess glue up in these top corners. It's a little bit tougher to get that out of there. We don't really want to have the glue show through the stain. Depending on how familiar you are with stain does not like to penetrate into wood grain when glue is there. It just can't get into the wood fibers and create that coloring. So instead you end up with a really slick spot that just doesn't work well. Make sure to mix your stain up, even if you just got it from the store. It'll always have some settling in the bottom, and if you don't get a nice coloring. So please mix it up. Make sure you don't need to mix it fast, otherwise you'll get air bubbles, and that doesn't work very well. Now depending on how well you cut your slots in, I left the back of my slots just a little bit tighter than the outside edges because I really wanted those matchboxes to stick in there. But pull out your matchboxes, test it out, make sure it's easy to use.